All right, we are back for another episode of Content is for Closers. We have a great interview with Jeroen Corthout for you, but I need to be fully transparent with the people, Carlton. This is probably our 5th or 6th attempt at doing this intro because we have had so many problems today.
Yeah, I think it's the 6th.
Gracious, this has just been, my computer just died halfway through. Microphones have not been working. Somebody doesn't want us to have this content put out there, but we're going to do it. Yes. And a lot of it is thanks to you, Carlton. People have been really, impressed, I would say, with your tidbits. Last week, you introduced the concept of putting ice cream as creamer, which was mind-blowing for me. Today, you troubleshot our computer. What else do you have for us? Do you have any other insights for us?
I wish I had something better. I think with it being Mother's Day and everything this last week, it's good just to take a breather this weekend and get outside, do some hiking. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to that Enterprise trail system?
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the craziest thing is they've got those like old ammo depot things.
We're talking about Chattanooga, Tennessee, Enterprise South. I think Volkswagen built it, right?
Volkswagen built it, yeah. Yeah. They've got those crazy dome storage, ammo storage buildings that have been abandoned or whatever. And they built that on that site. Have you ever been inside one of those?
No, I don't even think I saw those.
Yeah, that's kind of like a staple of that park is they have these, every 200 yards they have these old, basically abandoned ammo depot domes underground. And so if you go in one of those, it's just the craziest experience. They're
just open
for
people to go in?
Yeah, some of them are open. You can go inside of them, and they're basically just concrete domes. And it's just an incredible experience. I thought I would never be as entertained by an Echo as I was yesterday. That was fantastic.
You need to, based on how things are going with like at-home setups, we're playing home field advantage, all those things. You need to just take your phone in there and we'll record in there. I bet it'd be the best episode we have based on.
You would not be able to understand a thing. I mean, it's probably like 6 or 7 echoes that you hear for every tiny little noise.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
No, I ran a couple races out there when I lived in Chattanooga, but I really have no recollection of that at all. But that sounds cool. So did you guys hike or mountain bike or all?
Yeah, we just did some hiking over there. It was good.
Nice. Need to get out there and do that. Speaking of cycling, our guest today, Jeroen Corthout, I didn't get a chance to ask him too much about it, but he had a very nice road bike hanging behind him during our interview. And he seems like a road cyclist. Based on our conversation, it seems like you could see him, out there getting after a century ride or something like that. Just, he has that sense about him when you talk to him, that kind of quiet determination. What do you think about the conversation based on what you heard?
Yeah, it was great. I'm a product guy. I love new products. I think I'd probably fall into his target demographic of being an early adopter. If there's something that people have that's like in beta, it's way more likely that I'm going to try it just because I love, experiencing new products and seeing what, kind of kicking the tires and seeing what's possible with new software. So, in his case, he had built a sales platform, kind of a CRM platform that became number 1 on Product Hunt. And that is not an easy task. Mm-hmm. Product Hunt is extremely hot. It has tons of new products being launched daily. And really, to some degree, the audience there is quite helpful. They give you a lot of feedback. There's a lot of things that people will, kind of voluntarily explore for you on there. So it's an interesting strategy for getting publicity and also getting feedback from those early adopters and that audience that's a little bit more on the edge of new technology.
Yeah, 100%. When I was even having the conversation, I was like, man, Carlton is the guy that you're trying to talk to, because he talked about obviously Product Hunt. Also, what's the other thing that AppSumo was a huge growth tool for them. And I think the lesson for me, and what I would like encourage people to listen for, is I think as marketers, especially me personally, I always think that there's some magic key or some like playbook or set of actions that I just don't know about, but that like the people in the know do know about. And everyone has like this kind of hidden secret or open secret. And what Jeroen was telling us is, he's not from the product world. That's what he does now, but that's not his background specifically. So he had to learn, where is it that these people spend time? Where is it that the Carltons of the world, what matters to them? And then he found ways to hack that and it's like, sounds so obvious coming out of my mouth, but it isn't. And like Product Hunt in hindsight, it's like, yeah, become number one on Product Hunt, but it's not that simple. Become super successful on AppSumo. Those are decisions that he had to make. And he talks about how he went through that decision-making process, how they used like a abundance of people coming through AppSumo or Product Hunt to connect on a one-to-one basis, which was super interesting to me. It's like the reverse of what we do. And then how he leveraged all of that in order to grow the company. So that's what I took away from it. I thought it was such a tactical, practical look into how to grow a software company, but I think that can be applied to most anything.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd say on this is, a lot of times we think about content in terms of social media or in terms of like publishing videos, and content can also take form of engaging with communities, or doing different, I would almost call them press releases, or um, it's almost like some of these platforms that have the opportunity to surface new and exciting things,
or just community engagement, like
yeah,
just commenting really well. That could
yeah,
be content as well. Yeah, it's something that we need to, if you haven't, and this is a shout out for no free shout outs for stuff, but the Copy That course that Sam Parr put out, I would encourage anyone who's interested to take that, like do it. If you're on the fence, it forces you to think about the throwaway content that we sometimes don't think about, because it's not an advertisement, it's not a commercial, but those are important things. Speaking of some throwaway content, this is actually the opposite of that. But every week we read one of our 5-star reviews. We're on our way to 100. If you leave a review right now, we will read it on the next episode. This is from Tennessee Titans. I assume the entire organization. Don't know who this is. 5-star review. Great show for my business. Adam and Carlton consistently produce quality episodes with the highest sourcing of quality guests. Subscribe. I promise you won't regret it. Thank you, Tennessee Titans. We are all big Titans fans on this show. We appreciate you leaving that. And for you who are listening, you're going to want to leave a 5-star review after you hear this with Jeroen. It was extremely informative. He's a completely different character. And he brings a lot of new insight, I think, to what we talk about here on the show. Anything before we get to it, Carlton?
That's good. Let's go.
On this episode, we're joined by Jeroen Corthout, who is the co-founder of SalesFlare. Jeroen and the team at SalesFlare have been making CRMs human for the past 8 years, and they've left a trail of pretty incredible marketing achievements along the way. From earning the #1 ranking on Product Hunt to leveraging AppSumo for thousands of new signups, the team at SalesFlare has tried it all when it comes to product marketing and earning early users. And during our episode, Jeroen and I get into the details of how they got their early adopters to use the product, how they've scaled to the masses, and what they're doing now that they've reached maturity as a CRM platform. This is a Growth 101 playbook episode for anyone who is interested in or working on a product. Let's get into it with Jeroen Corthout of SalesFlare. All right, welcome back into Content is for Closers. On this episode, we have the founder of SalesFlare, Jeroen Corthout. How did I do on that, Jeroen? Was it okay?
That was perfect. Almost Cloudflare, but yeah.
I started to stumble on that, but we got it. SalesFlare.
It's another flare.
That's right. Thank you for joining us, Jeroen. You said you're coming from Belgium. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm also currently in Antwerp in Belgium.
Very
cool.
You know
what that is? Or
I looked it up prior to this, if I'm being honest, but I have been to Aruba a couple of times, which is, there's some ties there, right?
Well, loose ties. Aruba is a Dutch island. It was, or whatever. They still sort of speak Dutch there. And at the time, the Netherlands and us were the same country. Yeah, you could say there's a tie.
Loose tie. Yeah. I've had a little bit of exposure to Dutch food, and that was the one time I did. So that's
okay. Yeah.
Oh,
they have food? No, I don't know. No, Dutch food is horrible. But Belgium, we have more of the French cuisine.
Okay.
So when we go to the Netherlands, it's like, what are they eating? They eat
Uh-huh.
like a common thing we laugh about is they have this a croquette, and they have it in the wall. You can get it out of the wall. So imagine at one side of the wall, they open it, they put a croquette inside, they close it again,
Oh,
and then you
okay.
come at the other side and you put a coin, and then you get your croquette out of the wall.
Really
Very
interesting.
Dutch. Yeah.
Okay. You'll have to show me when I make my voyage over there at some point. But croquettes aside, we're here because of the work that you've done with SalesFlare. And I think recently you had a feature launch. But historically, one of the things that you all have done successfully is that I think our audience will be very interested in is being able to generate your own interest and hype, and specifically around getting on the front page of Product Hunter, the top of Product Hunter, something like that. Tell us a little bit about that, and what were you able to do to achieve that success?
I think essentially it's not that complex. Um, I think a first step, as always, is thinking who is on Product Hunt, who are we meeting there. Does it even make sense for us to be in front of them?
Right.
Because Product Hunt, essentially, if you want to think about it, it's a lot of people who are very excited about new products, which means they are either they are very early adopters, or they have a startup themselves and they've sort of been on Product Hunt themselves, and that's how they have a connection with it. Happens very often.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're in marketing in a company somewhere and they really love new things. Or they're product people, like
Mm-hmm.
product designers or general designers. So think about that audience and then think, is my product actually right for them? If it's not, then probably you should be on Product Hunt, for multiple reasons. Your product will not do well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you will not get upvotes because they'll be like, blah, I don't need this. And secondly, even if your product, quote unquote, does well, which won't happen, you won't get any proper leads from it, right? So it's a waste. So first think, is my product right for Product Hunt? And then think, how is it right for Product Hunt? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I were one of these people and I would see our product appear, what would trigger me? And you don't have a lot of time. So Product Hunt, essentially, it's a list of stuff, and the nicest things move to the top because they get upvotes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of that is organic, and part of it is not, because it's a competition also. So but the you need to grab that attention based on a little image, a title, and a subtitle, and that's all you have. It's like you're sending an email to people, right? You don't have much. You're there. Also, you have the subject line. You have your own name, and you have a little preview text, sort of. If you cannot grab people's attention with that, then you've lost already. Because if you cannot pull them into your listing, which is very likely, then they probably won't upvote either. They can upvote without seeing it, but who does that, right?
Right.
So it's very important to focus on these things. Back in the day, when we launched many things on Product Hunt already. Back in the day, making an animated little image was very important, because then you would attract more attention. Nowadays, it only animates when you hover over the listing. So the
Mm.
importance of that has been reduced significantly. But that's at least it's something nice to work on. So you see something, it appeals, it tells a story perhaps, and when you over it moves, it has an extra thing to it. But then the most important things are the title, and it's a subtitle. You can put emojis in your title. In many cases, they will remove them, and you can always put it back. Because basically, what happens when you post a Product Hunt, the hunter has edit rights, the
Okay.
makers have edit rights, but also Product Hunt itself has edit rights. So you can make this a little editing fight. You add something, they remove it, you add it again. If they
A
don't
little
see it
back and
again,
forth.
you're fine, right? So
Yeah. What about
uh,
You mentioned there the competitive part. What were you? I'm curious. What were you referring to? That is that just the manual process of rallying people around your product, or I'm just curious what that was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the idea behind Product Hunt is great. The best things come to the top, and it happens with upvoting. And of course, they make an algorithm that makes sure that it's as clean as possible.
Hmm.
That the upvotes are preferably real upvotes, but there's no way to be 100% sure of that. And if Product Hunt is a good way to get a lot of attention, then obviously everyone will try to trick it.
Mm.
Literally everyone. And people who don't try to trick it, they will not even end up on the front page. And if you don't end up on the front page, nobody will see you. If nobody sees you, you will also not get organic upvotes. To a certain extent, you need to provide the first push or a big part of that push. Product Hunt starts with having a community already to then
Okay.
support you within the Product Hunt community. Now, the little problem there is that at least as far as I know, and they're not like super open about it, but if you ask people that are not on Product Hunt yet to create a Product Hunt account and then upvote you, my belief is that it hurts you rather than it helps you.
Really?
So I am not 100% sure about that. Obviously, the algorithm is a black box and all that.
Yeah.
But you need to make sure, I think, that people already have an account, or that you know who has an account and that you can ask these people. Then there's many ways you could, many things you can do if you already have a nice customer base and people are on Product Hunt and you can rely on them. You can send them an email. More effective is obviously asking people on chat or so.
Hmm.
Ask them on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or LinkedIn or hey, can you upvote us? A nice trick is to ask also, can you ask your team to upvote us? Because that immediately multiplies if they have a bigger team by
Hmm.
by X. And that is it essentially. I mean, the listing itself, it helps to have nice graphics that explain themselves,
Sure.
a nice video, some comments. Once when we launched our email workflows, I even asked some customers to prepare some use cases, some
Mm.
stuff they did with our email workflows, because our email workflows by themselves, they don't, I mean, it's nice, but it doesn't speak by itself really. But if you see how other people use it, then it can really inspire you and create some enthusiasm. So a bunch of people did that, put it in the comments, and then when people came to our page, you could feel the excitement. That was a nice touch that time, I think.
Very cool. Well,
But
you mentioned having an existing community or an outstanding community. I know SalesFlare. You didn't just launch it; it's been around for many years. Tell us, take us back to that. We kind of dove into the recent stuff, but how did you all get started? How did the concept come to you as the founder and all that sort of thing?
yeah, so we started indeed 8 years ago. I think 8 years ago we had the idea, and I was making a little slide deck, and my co-founder was making a little prototype. Basically, the issue we faced, we had a software company. We were already selling a software product. It was in BI sphere, like business intelligence, and we had a lot of leads, and we wanted to follow them up well. Also, the sales process quite long. And we had like 130 leads at the time. I think we went to a big conference, and that was quite successful. And a lot of people said, "I'm interested in this. Can you demo this outside the conference?" And so we had to follow up all these people, and it was really a pain.
Hmm.
I had used Salesforce for many years before that. I knew it wasn't really a system to organize yourself practically, more of a system that a big company enjoys to sort of build their own processes and maybe have management reporting and all that. But as a
Hmm.
salesperson, it's an absolutely horrible system. So we tried many different systems, and we found some that were much better. I I think some of the nicest ones we tried at the time were Pipedrive and Streak. They still exist. But what we found every time is that we didn't manage to use the systems properly. And why not? It was because they required so much data input from us that we at some point gave up. We didn't input everything. And if we didn't input everything, then we couldn't rely on the system anymore. And if we couldn't rely on the system anymore, it was less useful, and we would input less data. And you can see that vicious sort of cycle. And we were so disappointed by that. We also don't like disappointing people by not following up correctly and stuff. And we started thinking, like, how can we automate this? How can we make sure that we always have the information, and we don't have to, the system does not have to rely on us for the information, but we can rely on the system. And we saw that actually most of the information you're tracking in a CRM is actually already somewhere. There's a lot of stuff in your inbox, obviously the emails, but also the names of the people and their email addresses. Their phone numbers are in their signatures, their addresses, maybe social profiles, positions, like what do they do at the company. All of these kind of things you can gather. You can gather information about the companies as well. There's a lot of good company databases out there, stuff on LinkedIn. Also about people, there's things on social media. You could pull all that together, and you sort of already have a database. But then a very important thing when you're managing customer relationships is also the whole timeline. It's the emails from the inbox, it's the meetings from the calendar, it's the calls from the phone, it's the email tracking, whether they open stuff, click on things, go to the site. If a system can map all these things, you immediately have this overview of the full customer relationship, you could say, because a customer relationship is defined by touch points. So we set out to build that system. That took us a while. I think we started developing. At first, we were sort of how can I say, intimidated by the project. So we started something smaller first. It was a document tracking tool, which does not exist anymore. But then at the end of 2014, we started developing, and only after a year, we got it to such a point that somebody wanted to pay us for it.
Wow.
That was end of 2015. And then we've been building up things gradually. We've been doing real sales, really finding people who were interested, demoing them, setting them up on the software, supporting them, everything fully guided. That was a long process, and it took us a lot of time, but it also really helped us to find out all the little things about why people use SalesFlare, what other stuff they wanted, what was going wrong in the process, how we could make it better. And actually, so that enabled us then in the end, back to Product Hunt, you could say, in 2017, when we launched the Product Hunt in, I think it was March or April. By then we had all these things figured out, sort of. I mean, we've still come a long way since then, but it really helped us to have an experience that was fluid and smooth.
So, one question, really. I think I love it how you all scratched your own itch and built something that you needed. What was you said it took you a long time to build the product and to have these sort of slow conversations, and then it flipped and you started getting traction selling. What was the flip there? What was the thing that made that start happening, as opposed to the sort of the slow plotting process you were experiencing prior? Or
there was no real flip, I must say.
Yeah.
Actually, Product Hunt was sort of a flip for us.
Okay. Yeah.
In a sense that I think at the time we convinced about 20, 30 customers or so, if even, by the time we launched a Product Hunt. When we got on there, I think 300 companies or so tried our software in a few days, which was huge at the time. A Product Hunt, I must say, was more grassroots and more active. Like now it's bigger, but it's a little less active.
Okay.
And then based on that, also the people at AppSumo got the confidence to promote a CRM, they were all against it. They said, well, CRMs, we don't do that anymore. But when they saw our success on Product Hunt, they said, okay, let's give this a shot. And it was a great success there as well. We actually onboarded almost 6,000 companies in a matter of 3 weeks on our software. Yeah, you can imagine. So we come from, I think when we launched on AppSumo, we probably had 40 customers or so. And then we add 6,000 companies in a matter of 3 weeks. That was crazy.
I can imagine.
In many ways, we were like doing support not 24/7, 24/5. Throughout the night, we had shifts and all. We had offered to help people with their imports. That was a bad idea because all of a sudden we had this huge pile of imports we had to do for people.
Right.
Our servers were not meant to. They didn't auto scale yet. We had to fix that while things were going down.
Wow.
And we also still relied on an external service to connect to mailboxes, which not the case at all anymore. Everything is fully native, but we had told that external service that we were going to have a lot of traffic, and they said, well, that's okay. I mean, we were prepared. We have a lot of stuff going on. But when we actually got all these AppSumos on our software, everything went down. It was horrible. And we spent days fixing it.
But the nice thing with I don't know if this is the way it works with them, with yours, with AppSumo, the experience I have with them, a lot of times those are like lifetime deals or long-term deals, right? So those 6,000 customers or whatever, I imagine, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of pain there getting through it, but once you scaled up to that, you had that recurring revenue coming, right? For however long.
Yeah, normally, like you said, the revenue from AppSumo is not really recurring.
Right.
They're lifetime deals. Now we organized a lifetime deal in such a way that it was one user free on the CRM and additional ones at a big discount, which means that we did add recurring revenue, and we still have recurring revenue from people who join us through AppSumo. Now, that's not the only benefit to it. Of course, it helps you to see what it is to scale your product. That's nice. But also, AppSumo promotes you to 1 million people, which is nice. These people that then decide to buy your deal somehow feel super connected to you because they bought your software. They almost feel like they bought your company. And they are ready to promote you. They're ready to promote you to other people. They're ready to write reviews. Some of them are ready to be your affiliate even. So that helps you in many ways. And then on top of that, you also gather so much feedback. Because the funny thing is, many people who pay us don't give us a lot of feedback. I think they have more money than time, you could say. Well, people that join us from AppSumo maybe have more time than money. I mean, it's not a general thing, but I'm generalizing here.
Right.
But we get a lot of feedback from them, which also helped us tremendously to improve our product.
That's interesting. Do you think that's just a byproduct of the longevity of the, like when they buy a lifetime deal, they feel like a part of the company, or why do you think that is that has that effect?
Other type of people also. There are maybe they're starting up. They're relatively optimistic about a lot of things. They're really trying to build something. They maybe are not all of them are at a certain speed yet with their business, or it's a bunch of factors that play into that. While many of our customers are really like they're going for it. They may be just an employee at a company doing sales. They don't care as much.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's weird, right? Because they're paying us, but
no, I think it makes sense. And the time and money, discrepancy is probably accurate. If you are just starting, you're excited about things, you're enthusiastic, and potentially could make money as an affiliate versus just being a big box customer that's using it purely for utility. That makes sense. So we've kind of skirted a lot around it, but tell us and you described it when you were describing your own need state. What is SalesFlare? How would you see it used effectively, or why is it a helpful tool for sales and marketing people?
Yeah. So imagine you are a small or medium-sized business who does B2B, so who sells to other businesses. Then you can use SalesFlare, and what we use it for is to better follow up your leads. Essentially, if you ask most of our customers what is the very the most essential thing you do with SalesFlare is following up leads in a better way. It can be prospects, but it can also be customers who want to buy again or whatever. I mean, all of these things, account management is also possible. But in most cases, there's a lot of business development going on. Mm-hmm. And how our software helps with that, I sort of alluded to earlier. You don't have to input everything in the CRM. We built it in such a way that it starts from everything that's already there and then sort of surfaces all that information to you, and you just have to click. So you can create a company. It tells you these are the people. This is more information about the company. It's already there for you. Then it says these are the people you know there. Do you want to add them? We already have all the information about them. This is who your colleagues know at the company. You can get intros through these people. These are the relationship strengths you have with them. This is all the things, all the emails, meetings, calls, all these things that were exchanged. These are all the files you exchanged with these people. This is their social feed. Everything is sort of there for you, and then based on that, you can do better sales. And then because we have so much data, we've been building in some smart stuff that it can remind you when you forget to follow up with someone, when you forget to answer an email, add notes or so. But also we've built this kind of automated email system. So you can send email sequences like you can send with some other tools. But you can also trigger them based on your data. So you could say if a deal reaches this stage in the pipeline, they need to start getting that email until they reply or click or whatever. Or when they get that tag because of reasons, or you could start building this kind of stuff. And then we've expanded our software from there to cover more and more of the sales process. So we already cover a lot of things that used to be separate tools in the past, like an email tracking tool, email template tool, email sequences, an email finder we also have now, if you want to find email addresses of people. A LinkedIn integration. So if I go to your LinkedIn profile, it says, well, this company, add the company, add Adam, find his email address. You can do that whole flow, as well as a bunch of other things I'm forgetting. Well, you can build
that's a lot.
reporting stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of product. Yeah.
Just a curiosity. So let's say that if it's not on deal flow or stage of flow, can you do a custom tag? For instance, like could the fact that you work at SalesFlare, and I know that you've worked there, can I send you a specific set of email sequences since I know you have that in your history? Can you tag people based on work history or things like that?
Yeah, you can use any of the data you have. So it doesn't have to be the stage of the opportunity. It can be their role at the company if it contains that word, or it can be when you were last in touch with them, or it could be whether you have a phone number for them or whatever. And then you can also use these different pieces of data. You can also use them in the email. So in the email, you can also use a first name. If your email about a podcast and you put in a custom field podcast name, you can put the podcast name in there.
Very cool.
You can build your own thing.
That's awesome. Well, we'll link obviously all of that in the notes below. And appreciate you spending so much time with us, Jeroen. I do have one last question before we wrap here, and we ask everyone: what is the one, whether it be content trend, sales trend, growth thing that you all are planning right now? What has you excited, and what are you looking forward to here in the next several months?
Good question. I'm mostly excited about. Well, it's what personally excites me is uh, building a product that allows you to organize everything when it comes to sales in one place. I think the market is also generally going there, which is very helpful for people. Because what's most annoying is I have data in lots of different places. Like you send your email sequences here, and then some things bounce, and then you try to import that into your CRM to record that, but then you forget this and that, and then you need to find email addresses here, and then you're always moving over CSV files, and it's very hard to see what you already had here and there, and then deduplicate that. We're trying to build a system where that's not necessary, and right now, so I've told you many of the things we're doing already. Now we are building more and more towards lead generation.
Cool.
So soon you'll be able to say at this company, show me the sales director, and then SalesFlare finds it for you.
Wow.
But then slowly we'll also work towards get me agencies in New York that are that size, and get me the sales director, and then you'll be able to manage that all from one place. You say, add these people to a sequence, and then but these people are already in a CRM, so it probably doesn't make sense to do that, or that's what we're working on, and it's really exciting, and it's really difficult in a way for us.
I'm sure.
Product meetings are quite intense, because we need to think through a lot of things to make that work very elegantly. But when it works, it's so satisfying. That's one of the things we really love as a team, is to really think through the experiences very deeply, so that when you're using the software in the end, you don't have a feeling like, oh, what did they do here? Why is it working like this? We try to minimize all that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're thinking through all of that. I mean, just I obviously sell for our company, and all of those things are features that would be incredibly helpful. The email finding thing alone is like a killer feature. So we'll definitely be keeping tabs and looking forward to seeing all the things that you all build. Appreciate you so much coming on, Jeroen, and we'll hopefully catch up with you soon.